Welcome to the Spirit Sessions podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us where I'll help you find your true spiritual home, where every single aspect of you is holy ground, holy ground, holy ground, holy ground.
This is Spirit Session Podcast with Katie Silcox. Venga chicos, empezamos. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hi everyone, Katie here. This podcast is intended to inspire you, educate you, and most importantly, support you on your journey towards knowing who you really are, that inner self, that inner teacher. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer professional health or medical advice on this podcast. If you are suffering from any kind of psychological or medical issue, please do the right thing and seek help from your qualified health professional. Hello, beautiful listener. It's your Ayurveda Gal Friday. Katie here with you. Happy fall. We've got a sweet little deep yet practical fall living tips, tools, good witchery vibes for you. And did you know that this is the last week? We've got just a little over a week for you to get $600 off our beloved, world-renowned, amazing, woman-centric Ayurveda certification school. So if you've been thinking about it, I know you're out there, you're listening, you've been digging the pod, and you've been thinking, should I do this? This is the time to get it, cheapest price ever. I know in my heart of hearts, every single year is special and different and wonderful, but I can assure you 2024 has the most incredible staff of teachers. We call them Smart Plus Heart. And I'm just really proud of our program. I am amazed as well at the community of women that this program attracts. And really, healing cannot be done alone. And so if you never want to walk alone in your healing journey again, I really encourage you to join us this year. January we start. This is the last week, October 31st, early bird ends. Get in now. And if you want to have a call with one of us, the link for both the school, all the information, and to set up a coaching call with one of our incredible coaches who've all gone through the program. And, I always say, everybody thinks their baby's pretty, but it's amazing to hear it from other people. So set up a call with one of these women or just pull the trigger if you're ready. We look so forward to seeing you January, mid-January, new year, new you. Never walk alone again in this process. Come join us. Check us out. And I hope to see you there. Hi. Welcome. Fall free webinar. I'm like, wow, did we just start the fall webinar with a saxophone solo? Okay. What's up, 1992? Everyone, welcome. I can't help it. We're stoked. We've got Cynthia, we've got Lori, we've got Natalie, Suzanne, and Valerie in the front row, and I recognize them. And we have so many Shakti school students here that I'm sure new people are like, what is this girl gang I just joined? I thought this was an Ayurveda school. We do things a little differently here. We like to party and we like to create endogenous ecstasy in our bodies. That means feeling good chemicals. You can do it. And right now, this is the time. Well, it's always the time to really rethink things, re-feel things, reignite things, revision things, so you don't have to repeat old BS from your past that you are like, you know what? I've probably had enough of that. And guess what? You probably will repeat it again, and it's okay. This is so exciting to be here with you guys. I went crazy. I bought all the fall gourds and pumpkins. As you can see, the Glowworthy, my new book just got here. We're just doing it over here. It's fall, it's harvest season. And I'm just feeling all the abundance. If you're new here, welcome. There are so many students here that are in Shakti school. And we also had Sarah told me this morning, the most people we've ever had sign up for a webinar. We had 1,500 people sign up for this webinar. Lots of you that will watch this later. We want to send you guys some spider webs, tentacles of love out into the universe. And the only reason that I can think that we had so many people is that there's this really deep feeling in the collective, especially among women and the feminine, that we are ready to revisit, right? These beautiful ancient techniques and practices that our foremothers from all over the globe knew in their bones. And that is, the seasons are our teachers. And so that is really the spirit of this time. And so we're just so grateful to have you guys here today. Your greatest asset on the planet right now is your time and your attention. And so I just want to start off by saying thank you for being here. And thank you for the people that will watch this later. Now, I know this is a free webinar. I know everyone gets bombarded with, come join my thing, come join my thing, free this, free that. I've got an inbox full of all the courses I want to take as well. But we're here right now. And so I really encourage you, if you can, to shut down other windows, close, downward facing your phone. If you can, I realize some of you are like, I got my babies here and I can't do that. Or maybe you're cleaning your house or have to drive in your car. I realize not everyone can make this sort of a ritual, but if you can, there's no reason why this morning together couldn't be magic. There's nothing that makes any time any more special than another, but we actually are in a really special time. We are in right after the fall equinox, and we're at full moon. And so it's this really potent portal right now together. Now, on top of that, we have in the room today 153 women. So Sarah, if you guys have shut off the chat, if you could just open it up, and I'd love to just see your name and I guess it's already on your Zoom thing, but where you're coming from, where you live, and just to feel 154 now women and the hundreds that will watch this webinar later. Take a moment to maybe scroll through the Zoom and check out everybody. So what's so cool about this is I'm loving it. I'm loving it. You are not alone. You're not alone, right? You are here with women who, some of you know each other because you joined Ayurveda school and you got to know people, but many of you are new. And one of the central features we're going to get into in this webinar, and what we really are all about at the Shakti School, is breaking down the barrier that says that we are separate from one another. Breaking down the barrier of the ego, which has a great and healthy side, breaking down the part of the ego that says, I'm alone, I'm a weirdo, and I'm also kind of special. There's this hilarious quote. I was listening to one of my teachers, Tara Brock, and she was saying that she heard someone say, he was sitting in a bar and he said, yeah, I know I'm a loser and I'm nobody, but I'm all I can think about. And so that really is the paradox of the spiritual path and what really potentially fall in particular can offer us. And we're going to this whole class by saying this class is about death. Now, there's 162 of you here. Nobody better log off after hearing that. Death, I'm out of here. It's about the death of the mind, the thinking part of us that thinks the exact same thoughts we had yesterday. Neuroscience is getting on board with Ayurvedic and yogic and tantric and all these beautiful medical and holistic spiritual systems from the past that says, unless you do some form of ritual practices, unless you figure out some way to connect to something bigger than the ego every single day, neuroscience and the ancients say you'll think about 95 to 99% of the exact same beliefs and thoughts that you had yesterday. And then we wonder why our life feels kind of limited and why we can feel stuck and why we can feel alone in that. So when I say the class is about death, it's about dying every day to that separating entity. My teacher calls it the trance of separation. And I get in the trance every single day. Another way it shows up, and this is a beautiful time to look at it, and we'll talk about the energetics of fall and why. But another way it shows up, are you guys ready for it? It shows up as self-importance. Now, there's nothing wrong with a good, healthy self-esteem. There's nothing wrong with real, genuine self-appreciation, dignity as a woman, respect, love, compassion, gentleness. It's not the same as self-importance. I really want to make sure that I have this and this and this, and without this and this and this, OMG, I'm making fun of myself right now, guys. So I want to start with this big eagle eye vision, and that is, can we pause and take this hour that has the potential today to be a reignition, a return, and a magical time to break down like the leaves on the trees that go from big and juicy and green to beautifully brown and yellow and orange. And eventually, what do these leaves do? They don't moan and complain and get scared. And what do the leaves do? They surrender and they fall. Welcome to fall season. May it be a time together today in this magical hour where we can learn how to fall in love, fall, let go of the person that you were last year in order to become the person that you could become in this new season. When the leaves touch the ground, unless we rake them up and, put them in bags, they form nutrition for the squirrels and the birds and the plants beneath them. The leaves disintegrate and become the biome for the whole world below. Now, what this has to do with us today, and you, I hope today, if it resonates, is the part of us that needs to die, the part of us that is ready to be surrendered, the part of us that is longing to be transformed and transmuted is often the very thing that we're most afraid of about ourselves. It's often the very thing that I'm going to put it this way, we would most like to hide from people. And I was on a podcast yesterday and I was saying to the host, I get little tears in my eyes, and because it was just so true. The thing that we think that we're hiding from everyone else that we're so scared of is usually the thing that most observant people can see about you. You're only hiding from you. So fall is also this time of no hiding. There's one of the first original stories of all humans, these ancient Sumerian myths of Inanna and Ereshkigal, this old story about this queen who heard her sister in the underworld calling for her. And to be able to get to her sister, to save her life, to rescue her from hell, basically, she had to go down into 7 layers of underworld. And those of you that are in Shakti school, I see some of you here, you remember the story. And at each level, she had to actually take off a piece of her jewelry. She had to take off her cute little outfits. She had to let down all of the robes and silk and satins and gold and lay them at the feet of that next level of who she was becoming. And so fall, if you watch it with your senses, your eyes, your ears, your taste, your touch, your smell, you'll see There will come a time, and I realize we might have some of our Australian ladies and our New Zealanders, but whatever, girls, get your bikinis out, like go watch the spring webinar. But for most of us here today, those trees that were so full and almost able to hide are now going to be nude, naked. And in that clarity of no green, there is truth. If we feel into our own lives together right here and right now, we can trust our foremothers and forefathers that knew that the fall season had a particular energy that in the ancient Ayurvedic text, it's called the Charaka Samhita. They call this season, and I'll put it in the chat for you guys. And I have a big presentation PDF will show in a moment, but I want you to stay with me for a second, and then you'll get all of this at the end of class. And make sure you stay to the end, because I'm going to give you guys a big surprise at the end, and we're going to give you guys a special gift. It's going to go out to you at the end, so make sure to stay on. But the ancients of Ayurveda called this time Ritu Sandhi, and I just put it in the chat. And maybe, Sarah, we can just turn off the chat for a little bit if it's not off. So Ritu Sandhi. Ritu means a season or a ritual. It's where we get the word ritual, Ritu. But it's also a time, a season. Sandhi is a cool word that means a space in between. It means gap. And like another word we can say in English is liminal realm. You may have heard that if you're like in the PhD literary scene. They love to say the word liminal. It means this magical space in between things. Now, there's another beautiful word for it in Ayurveda Tantra called Sutika. And Sutika is specifically, and those of you that have lost a beloved know this period perhaps very well. Sutika is the period when someone dies, in between when their soul has moved on. There's a potent 40-day window where the soul is on a journey to the next place. This is what is said. And in that period, for the people left behind, there is an extremely powerful veiling that's removed. I had a friend lose a daughter, and it was horrible and tragic. And she said there was this period where I felt like she was with me. And I was not scared and I was not sad. I was so fully with her spirit. And I said to her, blessings. This is the potent Sutika time after death. You and her have the ability to be together in a way that is beyond time, space, and material reality. And we often find that it's after that 40-day period when you start to actually deeply grieve the loss. And so if you guys out there have lost someone, or you know someone that's recently lost someone, check in on them, but check in on them 40 days after, because that's most likely when they most need you. So on a deeper level, when we go into fall, this is when we're in the Sutika, the Ritu Sandhi, the liminal portal, the space in between things. The baby is not in the womb, but it's not out yet. You're in labor. Ouch, Maui wowie. And maybe orgasmic, but usually ouch wowie, right? It's that period of danger as well for the mother and the baby. So the time is powerful. It's where we have the most capacity to see through the veils. It's where we have the most capacity to step out of your mundane daily existence of get up, brush your teeth, go to work, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. It's where you can get deep spiritual insight into the nature of who you actually are when that day that nobody likes to talk about, when we are going to leave this mortal coil and this particular body that we all have. When that day gets closer, if you practice this now during fall, you will be ready to fall just like the leaves outside, effortlessly, naturally, so that your very death can be nutrition for those you leave behind. So now that you're all good and depressed, let's talk about what this is also about. What this is also about is the way that every single day we should be living like we have a little angel of death on our shoulder saying, remember, you have this diamond opportunity right now to do whatever you're meant to do. Don't waste it. Don't waste it on petty things. Don't waste it on petty people. Don't waste it on petty endeavors. Don't waste it. Don't waste it. Don't waste it. So physically, this is a time when most of us, unless we're in a different hemisphere, have gone through the heat of summer. Raise your hand if you're out there and it was a hot one. Okay, it was actually because, we think the global warming is really happening, right? And this summer has been shown to be one of the hottest in human history, or at least modern human history. And we all felt that overheating quality. And when we are speaking about, and I realize some of you are new and you're like, what are we talking about? We're talking about Ayurveda, the science of life. And really what we're trying to do is understand Mother Nature. And when we say Mother Nature, we're not just talking about you taking a hike and looking at the trees or the stars or like grounding on the earth, earthing, the new name for just being on the ground, right? We're not talking about just that. We're talking about all the natures of the natures. We're talking about your mental nature. We're talking about your spiritual nature. We're talking about your emotional nature. We're talking about your relational nature. We're talking about your sexual nature, on and on and on. And that's really why we go into all of those things in our year-long program, because it's every aspect of who you are and how that's related to Mother Nature. And so this potent moment in time, we've had all the heat, what we call Pitta, build up in all of us, no matter what our mind body type is. It's built up in all of us in this part of the world. And so right now, end of September, early October, throughout October, we are going to be in the transition period of that heat into what's coming next, which is winter. So really, fall itself is a sutika. It's a period of transition from hot to cold. And in that, oftentimes the heat has accumulated and it needs to be discharged. If we don't discharge our heat in healthy ways, it will come out in unhealthy ways. Let's talk about what that might look like. That might look like you getting really angry at someone for no big reason. That might look like you being super critical of yourself. That might look like you being more irritable than normal. That might mean just overworking, overstretching, overdoing. Hello, I just launched a book. It's coming out October 2nd. My friends are writing me like, are you okay? You're hustling. I'm like, that's the season, right? It's doing. It's the masculine. It is the sun. But we want to make sure we're tempering the sun. And I'll talk about how I temper the sun and how it's non-negotiable and how it really can work for you, especially in this season when all of us, no matter what our mind body type is, we have a lot of that solar energy in our system. It's not good. It's not bad. We want to give it a channel to flow through so it doesn't burn us up and burn up our loved ones and the people we care about the most, because that's usually who gets our heat, right? Another way it shows up as some of you are used to Shakti school. It's never not funny to me the way that fiery people during an accumulation of fire season do fiery things and then are like surprised, right? So it's like, if you are drinking more alcohol right now than normal, it's okay. We love you, but that is fire water. And so you may be like, oh, but I really need it right now. And other ways it can show up is wanting to eat lots of spicy foods, right? Another way it can show up is wanting to double down on your intensity. So it's like, well, I think I'm going to do 40 days of CrossFit and go on a diet and eat no fat and all this insane stuff. Like it might show up as you doing this like big, crazy, changing life intense plan, right? So there are just a number of ways it can show up, but to keep it super simple, right now, all of us, no matter our doshic type, have an accumulation of heat and intensity.
heat and intensity. In Ayurvedic medicine, the remedy for heat and intensity is sweetness and wateriness and coolness and chill outedness. The opposite of intensity is humor. The opposite of intensity is that you do not take yourself or any of this too seriously. I always say, you're going to know you have a really good teacher if she is a goofball that makes you laugh. If your teacher has a sense of humor, it's a good sign. It's also a good sign if they struggle with their own stuff, right? That sense of you not being perfect. Perfection is a mirage of too much heat. So pausing for a moment, and I'm going to give you guys lots of practical things in a moment, but I just want you to take a moment to think about, does that resonate with you? Has anything felt overly heated, overly intense? Have you been really taking yourself seriously? Criticism of self or others, anger, outbursts? And then if you feel comfortable with it, just take a moment to close your eyes. And this is a question we often start the year of Shakti School with, and that is, what is for me right now, today? And I want you to ask for one word or one simple phrase. What is the medicine for me right now? What would be most helpful and supportive for me? And just, it usually comes pretty fast. It might show up as an image or a word. It may be just a feeling, and you can name it or not. And when you've got it, Sarah, if you don't mind, or Kirsten, just open up that chat for us. And when you got it, put that in the chat if you want to share. And let's just see some of the medicine that your intuition knows. Yeah, so it's all well and good for me to tell you guys the Ayurveda rules. But what's more interesting to me is to watch the way a group of 173 women know what they need. And you can see it coming through: acceptance, surrender, play, space. I got that one too. Space was big for me. Sunshine, rest. It's all of these life-giving, life-affirming, non-addictive, beautiful Ayurvedic practices. You guys are literally listing them. Slimy seaweed, Stephanie. Okay, girl, that makes sense, right? So Stephanie's slimy seaweed brings us into the next part of where we're going to go today, and that is, well, what do our ancestors say about season, particularly the one that we find ourselves in? And we have this thermal accumulation. We can call that Pitta from an Ayurvedic standpoint, but think about it as thermal heat accumulation in the body. Now, what this does is, think about a bonfire. When the heat has fully accumulated, imagine a fire that is hot and hot and hot, and it just keeps burning and burning and burning. And eventually it's going to dry out the logs. It's going to burn things down to ash, and it's going to keep taking things to an ash state. Ash is the essence of what we in the tradition call Vata dosha. Vata is degeneration. Vata is the essence of movement, change, impermanence. It is the last stage of life. It's where things, as one of my teachers used to say, are shrinking and drying. No matter how much water you have in your body, we're all shrinking and drying. So if you're here and you're not 22, and even if you're 22, write this down for later. 22-year-olds think that they've got juice for days. They're like, I can get away with everything because they can, right? But more and more, our young people aren't even getting away with it for many reasons. Our goal is to hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. So Sarah and Kirsten are going to give you guys a link to an email we sent out. If you're new to us, we'll make sure you get it. And it's called Help Me Help You Hydrate. So water, hydration is super important at this time, because the tissues have reached their peak accumulation of fire or heat. And as fire continues to build and build and build, what will eventually happen? It will burn out. And that's where you get people who work too much and then they burn out. Or you get people who are rageaholics who get angry too much and then they collapse and start crying, right? It just can't continue. On a physical, now I'm giving extreme examples because I'm an entertainer and you'll remember it. But just on a regular level, this is just the tissues of your lymphatic system, of your muscle, of your fat, of all of your connective tissue, of your joints, of your bone marrow. We're learning a lot about that in one of our courses. All of those layers of your sexual tissues. This, ladies, for you guys, it's your hormones, your vaginal fluids. These tissues now are going to be the driest they've ever been. So we have to really help that accumulated heat leave the body and then bring in moisture and wetness and just a slight amount of coolness during this time so that we can prepare for the cold that is coming. One of the main places we do that tissue preparation, because so let me go back to one thing. If you don't do this, and some of you, this has already happened to you, the tissues dry out, and especially the lymphatic tissue, which is your first barrier of tissue response in the immune system. The lymph, it's like a watery channel that doesn't have a pump like the blood and the heart. The lymph has to be pumped by you, right? It gets pumped through exercise, walking, dry brushing, rebounding, skipping, dancing, goofballing around in your kitchen. Movement, sex also helps, pumps the lymphatic tissue. There's lots of other subtle ways we can work with the lymph. And so you just have to join Shakti School in January and you will be there, and we're going to do it all year round together on all the layers. But for today, what you can start with right now is the seminal #1, as we promised you in the advertisement, way to care for the lymphatic tissue right now is Abhyanga, self-massage. And I include in self-massage dry brushing. If you have a lot of overly oily skin and you have overeaten a lot of excess fats over the season, you might not need to put more fats all over your body right now today. You might need to start with a good dry brushing. So when we dry brush, we always go up the yin of our body. The yin is your insides. You got the outsides, you got the soft, yin, feminine insides. You're going to go up the insides always to the heart, dry brush or massage. How do I do an Ayurvedic massage, Katie? It's super simple, but we have it listed out for you in the PDF that we'll give you. Super easy steps if you don't know how to do it. Get some coconut oil, half of that, mix with some sesame oil, organic, cold pressed, food grade. Mix those two babies together. Why those oils? For right now, for most people, those are going to be helpful because it's hot and cold together, which is what we need right now. In the winter, you can come back and we'll do another free webinar. In November, we're going to talk about cleansing. And in winter, we're going to talk about winter. So for now, either intuitively feel, I'm juicy. I personally do not need a ton of oil on my body right now. I need more dry brushing. Right? And then maybe a little oil, maybe not. Some of you are like, I feel so dry. I need that on my skin. And you'll know because if you really need the oil, your skin is going to soak it up. You barely even have to wipe it off. You can leave it on your body for at least 20 minutes and then get in the shower. And usually it's absorbed into the skin by now. Long strokes on the long parts of your body, always to the heart, circular strokes on the joints. And another way of saying this, and why I don't spend a ton of time on it in this webinar, is we're going to write it out for you and send it to you. But also, I am a firm believer in a bushel and a peck and a pinch. It's like, girl, do what feels good. Put the oil on your body, put on some Sade, and just go for it on your skin. And just whatever feels good is going to be good for you. So that will help give hydration and nutrition to the lymphatic system. But more importantly, it will just help it move. A moving lymphatic system is a juicy lymphatic system. A juicy lymphatic system has the ability, remember, it's your first line of defense against pathogens. What are those? All the things that aren't necessarily bad, but we don't want them in excess, aka mold, viruses, bacteria. That is why when we don't do these practices, and nobody taught us a lot of the time, so we're kind of reviving these traditions, this is the time where everybody gets what? Sick. Fall is the most vulnerable time of the year. The transition between fall and winter, it's when we're the most vulnerable. And what does our culture, many of our cultures, go and do? We do back to school. We do amp it up, right? We actually have all of our holidays, which were meant to be times of rest and gift giving and relaxation and lighting lights. And now it's just like hustle more, 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 more. So really, this is a time about less, less, and less. Recommendation, don't do a book launch in October, but if you have to do what your publisher says, you're going to ride the wave, okay? But really these practices have helped me a lot. And I'm joking because it has been a really intense time for us at Shakti School, but I feel great, feel really good. And I know it's because I've really been trying to do these practices as best I can. Number 2, eat seasonally, eat locally. Y'all know this. Go to your farmer's market. Right now is the season of harvest. And our ancestors, if we're not talking about our paleo and our farm agriculture ancestors, which is most of the planet right now, knew that winter was coming. So the harvest of the fall, we used to salt meats, can our vegetables, jars of pears, peaches, apples. It's all now in bloom, right? In full fruition, rather. So there's a pear tree outside my house. It's just dropping pears. We can't keep up with it, right? Like that's really the season giving us the exact foods that we need for our body. So get this, right now is the season to eat fruit, particularly apples, pears, berries aren't as seasonal, but those don't, all of the ones that I'm listing right now do not spike blood sugar as much. If you're worried about spiking blood sugar, there are actually studies that show that there are flavonoids in berries and particularly apples. There's an apple a day keeps the doctor away is now really scientifically being shown that flavonoid actually has been shown to over time lower blood sugar in diabetics. So apples are really good. The other thing apples do is apples and A, B, C, you can remember this, apples, beets, and carrots. If you just grate those raw and you can cook them by adding a little bit of oil and vinegar and salt and pepper, you can also do like a savory, like a cardamom and cinnamon and nutmeg. But those 3 things together elicit a liver bile response, meaning they help your body move bile, which is sort of this really important thing that helps us digest food. But when we have too much of it, it can turn into sludge. We'll talk more about that when you guys all come and join in Ayurveda school. We call it ama. But apples, beets, and carrots, you can cook them. If you have a low digestive fire, make yourself some apple some steel cut oats in the pressure cooker. It's a really great way to do it with apples or pears, and that makes a very easily digestible fall breakfast. You can add a little coconut oil, a little ghee, and it's wonderful. Okay, what else? Well, surprise, we're going to give you guys a free PDF of all of our fall recipes. That's coming at every single one of you that have registered, so you can get some really great recipes. I'm going to give you the quick and dirty on the herbs, because we're all a little bit overwhelmed perhaps with how many things out there, what supplements, what herbs. KISS. Keep it simple. Let's just KIS. Keep it simple. We don't have to be stupid. Keep it simple, sexy. We're going to keep it super simple. Right now, if you've never explored the herb Amalaki, it's exactly the way it's spelled, is how it sounds. Amalaki. And Kirsten, before the end of class, Kirsten, maybe you can find that good PDF with all of our herb recommendations so they can get the links to the places that I buy the herbs. We'll figure out how to get you guys that. But if you've never played around with Amalaki, I'm obsessed. It is one of the key ingredients of the key herb of Ayurvedic digestion you may have heard of, called Triphala, which is another good one you can play around with. The reason I'm recommending now Amalaki is that it is the most cooling of that trifecta. It is also one of the sources of the highest amount of vitamin C on the planet. So we'll get you a link to one I love that's sustainably sourced, because we want to be super careful about that as well. But Amalaki literally scrapes sludge from the summer, particularly excess heat and inflammation from the lymphatic tissue. Amalaki. One of my teachers, Dr. Ladd, I remember him saying, and I was like, wow. He said, you can take, and don't quote me on the exact amounts, but it was like, basically like you could take a tablespoon of Amalaki for every amount of that of toxins in your body. And you're like, well, we don't know how many ounces of toxins are in our body, but it could be, if you're very toxic, it could be a very large amount. So if you go and buy Amalaki, it will say, take 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. Really go with that to start, right? But these are basically dried fruits. And so they're really, really, what's the word? Safe to take. And Amalaki's been a big benefit, especially Triphala, which is another herb you guys can explore. The other ones you may have heard of. They are not indigenous only to Ayurvedic medicine, and that is these three. These three are the mothers of rehydrating hot tissue. Number 1, licorice. There's a reason why licorice is used in almost every formula in Chinese medicine. It is a carrier of water to the tissues of the body. There are counterindications for using licorice, and that is pregnancy and breastfeeding. Also, if you know that you have high blood pressure, you're going to watch out with licorice, because it can have that increase your blood pressure. It also does cause a little bit of water retention. That's what we want. That's to be expected. And so using it in small amounts can really be helpful for those of you out there who feel exhausted and dehydrated. Like, it doesn't matter how much water I drink, I can't stop being thirsty. Try a little bit of licorice. The other one I recommend is slippery elm. Wonderful, especially for the gut microbiome. It helps heal the tight junction walls of the gut, and is super helpful as well for healing degenerated, dried out tissues. And then the last one is marshmallow. Not like s'mores. It's an actual herb. And all of these you can find organic, highly sustainable versions of online, and we'll try to get you the sources as well. The other thing that's super important during this time, especially right now, is after you've done your apples and beets and carrots and maybe a little bit of a lighter diet, you're all going to come to the cleanse workshop next month, where I'm going to teach you how to do a cleanse at the perfect time of the year for that. But after you've done a little bit of cleanse, which you can already start doing now, how do I cleanse Ayurvedically? There's no secret recipe. There sort of is, but here's the secret. Make it light. Soups, stews, and just eat a little bit less than you normally would. Never starving yourself, never feeling hungry, never. But we have a little thing we say in Ayurveda. Eat to the first burp. Leave 1/3 of your stomach empty. Put 1/3 of your stomach is soup and 1/3 is solids. If you do that, I know Cynthia's making a face. I know it's super hard. This is a great time for steamed veggies, for basmati rice, for mung beans, for bone broth stews. This is a great time temporarily to take the heat and the fats down. You're going to be great with some basmati rice, some steel cut oats, some millet, some steamed veggies, even salads. I'm not anti smoothies and salads. I'm a weirdo. I think you can do it, but only if you really cook them. How do you cook a salad? You put vinegar in it. You put oil in it. You put black pepper. I put cinnamon on my salads. It's so good with a savory salad. And you let it sit for 20 minutes. You've now cooked that. So a little bit of salad right now is actually indicated for the time. Now, once we get into that cold fall and winter, raw fruit, raw salads, and raw smoothies are going to be no, goodbye, because now we're going to be at a different time, and we'll reconnect with you guys then so we can stay connected on what to do. But after you've done, let's say 3 days, 4 days, 6 days, 7 days of just a little bit lighter, your body will probably, some of you out there are naturally even feeling it, right? You're like, oh, I just kind of want to just chill out a little, make it really simple, cut out the sugar, cut out the alcohol, cut out anything processed, nothing fried, and you're golden. You can really eat whatever you want. After that, if you remember one thing today, remember the thing about your soul. If you remember 2 things, remember your soul and the skin massage. And if you remember 3 things, remember this: protein, protein, protein. Right now, after you do a little cleansing, you're going to want to really build up the protein in late fall and all throughout the winter. This is the time to increase protein. Some of you are vegan, some of you are vegetarians, some of you are meat eaters. There are many forms of protein. We all know that. So if you're a meat eater, make sure you get that grass-fed, grass-finished, hopefully good for the world type of meat. That's going to be very good for you. If you are vegetarian and vegan, and even if you're not, things like nuts. This is the season where we do in Ayurveda want to increase the amount of seeds and nuts that we're eating because they are very high in protein. So that's super important because protein is what helps protect and lubricate the joints. If you do not have enough protein, the synovial fluids in your joints, that's when we feel that like, I'm like feeling creaky and achy and joints are stiff, that kind of stuff. If you don't have enough of that hydration and protein, your body is a genius. It will rob from your synovial fluids. It will rob from your bone and your bone marrow, and it will take it from your body to use for energy. So if there's not enough protein in the body, in your diet, the body's going to take it from your fluids and your joints and your bones. And that's when we get things like osteoporosis. So we want to avoid that. So this is the time where you can actually get way more protein than you may even think. I also want you guys thinking about front loading that on the morning end. Let me tell you the #1 way to whack out your hormones during this season. Get up, drink some coffee, stare at a computer screen, and then eat lunch at like 2 p.m. If you are doing that right now, it may be working for you right now, but over time, that's really hard on the hormonal system. So we want to give our body, especially as we start to move into winter, sunlight and protein early in the morning. So try this tomorrow. Go outside, get 7 to 10 minutes of sunrise energy. Sunrise. If you're like, oh God, I'm still asleep, fine. Get it out there the first thing when you wake up. 7 to 10 minutes. It's all the rage. Everybody in the world is talking about, the sun, the sun, the sun. This is understood by Ayurveda. We call this the most sattvic light. We get that in the morning. If you can get out there before sun, you're going to even get more of that infrared light. Now, you only need 7 to 10 minutes to get that information. If you can do a little bit more, that's fine. And this isn't a light that burns. It's the sunrise light, right? Then You're going to have your breakfast be a very strong meal. Let's say 20 to 50, yes, I said 50 grams of protein. That's going to supercharge your metabolic rate in the morning through sunlight and a high amount of nutritional load. If you're vegan and you eat tofu and nuts, that's fine, but get it in the morning. And then do it again. Do it again in the middle of the day. Get a little bit of sun, not to burn, just a little bit, and then eat your bigger meal in the midday. I want all of us to do our best. And I know it's challenging when you have a social life, but just try for a few days and notice what happens. No food, simply, it should be 5, but let's say 4 hours before bed, you ain't eaten nothing. And if you're like, Katie, that won't work for me. I'm going to be hungry. I'll wake up in the middle of the night. It's fine. Don't do it. You got to work with your own body. Number 1 rule in Ayurveda school. But it might be because you're so hungry, because you didn't front load the metabolics of the morning and the midday. Most women I know, by the time they get to 4, 5, 6 o'clock, they're 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, they're wanting to eat a huge bowl of ice cream and the popcorn and the wine because they're stressed out from the hormones getting jacked up. And then they make their not great decisions. I know you because I'm like you, right? So these are just simple things that we can do that will really particularly help during the fall time. I've got so much to share with you guys, and I know we only have about 13 minutes, but we'll do our best not to go over, but no promises. This is actually a good time to do a very small amount of cold therapy so that we can start to train and prepare for cold winter that's coming. What does that mean? Does that mean sitting in an ice bath for 6 minutes? No. You go do that, but that's not super recommended. This means like 30 seconds to 1 minute of cold shower in the morning. And that's going to help train your system to be able to withstand the cold of winter. This is counterindicated if you have a true, if you're ill, don't do this. If you are suffering from a lot of fatigue and exhaustion, that kind of thing, you might not want to do a lot of this right now. But for most people, 30 seconds is really, really beneficial for women. We talked about vitamin D, going out in the sun in the winter. I do recommend people getting their vitamin D levels checked now so you can know what you're going into winter with. If you were able to be in the sunshine during the summer, you will have a good reservoir. But if you don't, then you're going to really want to do some form of supplementation with vitamin D supplements. If you've got great numbers, you might not need that. The other thing that's great right now as we move fall and winter is trace minerals. Even if you eat the most wonderful, if you eat 20 different plants a day and you eat grass-fed beef, or if you do everything perfect, the fruits and vegetables that our grandfathers and grandmothers ate had 30 times more nutritional value than the ones we were eating because of the depletion of the soil. All of us need to be supplementing with some forms of trace minerals. And if you've never done that, you might find a high dose of it to be very helpful. Magnesium, selenium, lithium, all of these types of trace minerals in our soils are in depletion. So trace minerals, there's many, many different options all over Amazon. There's one that I use every single day. It's called Trace Minerals. And you can look that one up. Oh my gosh, that was a lot of talking. So what I want to do now is share this with you all, just so you see. The way I typically teach is I don't like to read screens for you guys. I think you're all big girls, and I know that presentations where the teacher reads me when a teacher reads me a PowerPoint, it's like OMG. So I'm going to respect your brilliance. And we've got it all here for you. I just want to show you what you're going to be getting at the end of the call. We're going to talk about Vata dosha, what it is, and how it's related to the season that we find ourselves in, how it might show up in your body as imbalances. Simple ways, even more than the ones I went into today, that you can use to balance Vata during this time. Foods, even ones I didn't talk about, that are going to be super appropriate for right now, plus the recipe list that we're sending you all. these are such great, great foods for fall support. And even more herbs on here. Super, super good. Exercise right now. It's not the time to do your fastest cardio. Right now is like yoga. It's hikes. It's swimming. It's weightlifting. Really good right now. Weightlifting throughout the winter is what it's about. And of course, this long thing, the number one thing we need for the fall is this dry brush and body oiling. And I give you all the benefits. Who doesn't want baby smooth skin? And I'm not going to read you guys this, but you've got it all here. And how to build ojas. Ojas is this immunity. And here's some ways that you can do it. Get some loving, get some snuggles. If you don't have anybody to love you, you're going to go out and get yourself a little baby doodle. You're going to get a baby doodle. Cynthia and I are like, Cynthia and I have this hard bond through our Bernedoodles, our doodles. She and I love these dogs, and it's just like instant love. Get a baby kitten. Someone actually in Shakti school a few weeks ago, I was talking about Ojas, and she lived alone, and she wrote our staff, and she was like, I went out and bought I got a kitten, a rescue, I think, and she named it Soma. So that was really sweet to hear. Okay, so here we are with the end of the webinar. I'm going to take questions at the end if you guys have it, but we have a whole school that is a year-long program that can be a 2-year Ayurvedic health coaching certification program. It's also Lady Life School. People come because they want to support others and be coaches, but a lot of people come because they want to love and coach themselves and just really have this year-long container to be able to go super deep together on every single level: meditative, energetic, spiritual, and of course, physical. We realize a lot of you are new and you found us through an Instagram ad, and we want to just say welcome to the community. Whether you come to Ayurveda school or not, you're in the community. We love you, want you to stay, and we'll keep giving you guys great, beautiful free stuff. If you are like, wow, I really do want to commit to my health, and I want to commit to my spiritual practice, and I want to live this Ayurvedic life, you can also book a call with these amazing goddesses. These are all women who have done our entire program. They're kind, they're beautiful, they're what I call smart plus heart. These are the now famous Shakti school clarity coaches. And you can book a call with them if you're like, I don't know about this, but I want to learn more and have lots of questions. And what we find and what we hope and our intention is that if this is the time for you to do it, you're in. We will help you make it happen. Sarah, who's my program manager, who's here now, we have a joke. We're like Oprah. We're like, you get a payment plan, you get a payment. Like, we, more than any other company I know, work hard to make it work for the women so that it can be affordable for you. That said, we also don't want to stress you out, and we don't want anyone to do it where it would feel like a burden. We're not here to, get you guys into any kind of credit card debt or anything, but we do have it set up so you can pay over a 2-year period if that's in the cards for you. Because what I have found for myself, and what I think my graduates have said to me as well, is that the money that they've invested in the program has really come back to them either directly through their ability to charge, right, for people to sign up for their valuable insights and information about Ayurveda, which is still like a relatively new thing for the most of the population, but also just in the investment that they're making in themselves. I know that's been true for me with my investments and money in different teachers and platforms, that it really does come back on you. And so if this is something you're interested in, we would love to have you. You can learn more. You guys know our website, our Instagram. Most of you are here because you found us on Instagram, or you're already in the school. And we would just love to get to know you, and hope that if it's meant to be. That's my prayer for the year, that the women who need this program, that they find us, and that the right ones come on in, and that the people that aren't meant to do it, they don't need to come on in. And that's how we roll. So thank you guys so much. I am wishing you the most beautiful, happy fall. I just love having you guys, and those of you that have already graduated, some of you, yay, love you all. Hope to see you soon. Thank you guys.
A big special thanks to Kevin Carlisle of Goodbye Gemini, who wrote this beautiful podcast music, and to DJ Juan Pablo Jimenez in southern Spain for mixing it and making it magic.